And they have a simple method that they give loan to everybody who approach them with a certain amount of guarantee and give them the loan, which is very low or sometimes interest free. And the only condition is that after they get job, they should return. There is a legal bind. So returnable after you get an employment over a period of 10 to 15 years. I was a little surprised. I say, there might be a lot of misuse if this system is there. They say no. There is a default to the extent of 5%, but that we can manage. But it helps large majority of those who are with low income to get fund with a lower interest rate or without interest rate, and they could pay in 10 or 15 years after they get a job. So, but we are not doing that. I suggested chairman of UGC several times to the ministry, but they did not listen to me. Now, this is for those who are poor. Now, what about this social group? How do you take care of the social identity which became a constraint to have an access to higher education? Of course, for the low-income group from these communities and group, they must be given financial assistance. But SC and Muslim, they do face discrimination once they enter it. They also face discrimination in admission, about which there are no studies. But I presume that they face caste-related obstacles. But after having gone through the education institute, then the discrimination begins. Between student and teacher, and between student and non-teacher. That is the finding that I came up with in the All India Institute of Medical Sciences, and now there is some literature coming up. Number of suicide cases and the analysis of those suicide cases of scheduled caste and scheduled tribe tells you the background. Now you do require legal and other safeguard against discrimination. We have legal safeguard for women in the institution. There is a committee cash, and therefore there is a deterrent. But as far as the caste and ethnic discrimination or religion discrimination is not there. I tried, and I think there was some little success. Then there were a couple of cases of suicide coming after one after another. Kapil Sibal, who was the education minister at that time, being a lawyer, he called me and he said, "You have been asking me to prepare the regulations against discrimination. Prepare it and give it to me." So we prepared and we give it to them. The UGC approved it in 2013, and it is now in practice. But it is not effective. Nobody takes seriously. I read of several institutions, and some of them are not even aware about these regulations. Although they are aware about gender discrimination, physically handicapped discrimination, but not about the caste. I think what we require possibly is this, is to make the caste discrimination, gender discrimination a criminal act, not a normal violation. I do remember that with a lot of discussion we brought out, we made ragging a criminal offense. I was the chairman of UGC, we did that. And you will see that the ragging has almost disappeared. You get isolated incidences because ragging is made a criminal offense, subject to punishment. And the student who come to the education institution, obviously they are very much aware about their career, that anything goes wrong, it will destroy their career. Similar thing is necessary for the caste discrimination or ethnic discrimination. When you come to know about the tribal girl in medical college in Bombay commits suicide after MBBS because of harassment, or two students in our days for medical science, or one student in JNU, or a very, very famous example of Hyderabad University. So unless you make it a criminal, nobody will take it seriously. The other thing is, of course, the remedial assistance. The bulk of these students coming from rural area, from the social group, they lack language, English language, as well as they have poor base in core subject. And therefore, UGC has introduced the remedial assistance, which is very important, but it's not implemented very seriously. I tried to implement it in Jawaharlal Nehru University, and it has been quite successful. I introduced the concept of what is called individualized remedial assistance. We didn't call coaching or anything else, and it has shown a lot of positive results. That in the department, you observe a boy from the very beginning, his academic progress, identify those who are not able to cope up with, give them special assistance to senior student and teacher, fantastic result we got it. But it's not taken seriously by most of the universities. There are several steps that we will have to take additionally to reduce the dropout. There is an issue of language also. The new education policy reiterate that regional language should be the subject of instruction and English should be taught as a second language. Well, that is very important. But I think while the teaching should be in a mother tongue, the student can understand it better. English should be taught right from the first standard till the graduate, so that you know English language very well. And when you go to the higher education courses, professional, you don't have any difficulty. That is what the Thorat Commission has suggested. But we have diluted it in a number of ways. How do I remove this? Just can you remove this? Because it's not allowing me. Now there are only two areas where policies are required, and that is, I have suggested that the education of the head of the family play an important role. So we should have some policies that if the student coming from a lower education level of parent, there should be some assistance and encouragement for them. Also the family side should be taken into account, and that will, I think, help to a greater extent for promoting. And obviously there are policies which are needed for women. They are there, they are not adequate enough, and the policies are already. Very specific package of policy has to be reviewed, reformed and strengthened, which I have shared with you, based on the data, not in a general way. Now last section I will discuss with you that how does the new education policy look at the issue of equity and inclusiveness. It really emphasizes that equity is very, very important, inclusiveness is very important. It suggested that two funds should be created, one for gender, another for social group, and scholarship, fellowship and all that general recommendations are made. But there are no scheme whatsoever for the quality. What I am discussing with you in another 10 years when I saw is that all those measures which are proposed by the new education policy, they have an implication for equity and access, a negative implication. About which the committee is not aware, or if they are not aware, they have ignored. I will only take the prominent suggestion made by the committee and then share with you what are the implications which will reduce the access of the poor and social group to the higher education. The first thing is shift from affiliating to the unitary university. I was discussed with you about the unitary university. The specific reason was this. One of the major recommendations of the new education policy is that all affiliating university, state university, public university will be gradually transformed into a unitary university. Now what is unitary university? Unitary university is the university where under one umbrella, undergraduate, postgraduate and PhD degrees are awarded, and all the teachers teach undergraduate, postgraduate, the way you do in Borough. So that the undergraduate student benefit from the best of the student, best of the teacher. In Harvard I have seen, when I went there, but they say teaching the undergraduate student where there are 700 or 800 students are sitting. So Unity University has that advantage. Now if you, and the new education policy suggests that the existing affiliated colleges with the public university should be affiliated, group them into a cluster university. So, and make the cluster university a unitary university, teaching of undergraduate, postgraduate together. And also you can pick up some of the best colleges with potential for excellence, and give them the degree awarding right, like IITs and IIMs. So this is the method they have suggested for shift from affiliating system to the unitary system. Now there is a aspect to it which will affect the poor. This they have not given a thought. We from the very beginning have an affiliating system. Now, affiliating system means what? The university generally offer master and PhD program. The colleges generally get engaged into undergraduate. And some of the colleges now are also teaching the postgraduate. But primarily, the main function of the undergraduate colleges is to teach the undergraduate students. So there is a dichotomy, there is a division. Now, one of the advantage of affiliating system we have developed over a period of time is equity and easy access. There are colleges in large villages, there are colleges in small town, there are colleges in medium town. And the student then can use bicycle, buses, and even sometimes if they are near, they can walk. And so access is very easy. The massification of higher education and access on a mass scale, affiliating system is promoting this. Even for admission, you just carry your higher secondary certificate, show it to the principal, they give you an admission. Very easy, accessible method in the affiliating system. Now in unitary system, what this committee is suggesting that you should have a large multidisciplinary, interdisciplinary universities at a large town. And in the process of de-affiliation, some of the colleges in the outside area, small town and large villages will disappear. They will gradually be brought into the in the small in a bigger town, medium. You imagine the impact. Impact is simply that the access of the poor will be made more costly. If you have to go for a graduation or post-graduation in the bigger city, town. And this angle they have not studied. They have just borrowed it from the Princeton University or the University. Unitary system is better there, we should have it here. We should have it here, but then you can have the reform system also. So in the booklet I have suggested that you can have a midway through. You can have a unitary system, but keep the colleges where they are. And you can pull the teacher together, and the teacher, best of the teacher can teach the student in the undergraduate on distance mode, or they can go directly and teach. You can pull up the student, you can either pull up the teachers, and the undergraduate student can be taught by the best of the teacher in the university. Or you can change the service condition. They can teach the undergraduate, bring the all undergraduate into one area at one place in the colleges, and best of the teacher can go and teach. Or they can teach online, or they can teach in a distinct mode. The best of the teacher teach here and through a distance mode, his lectures are listened by the students. So there is a via media. And in this, you do not change the location of the college, which provide an easy access. But the committee didn't apply its mind. They had a model of USA. Second is the qualification framework. It must have been sent to you for your comment. Last date is over now. But the main point is that they brought multiple degrees with multiple duration. That is, you have now bachelor of 3 years and bachelor of 4. Master of 1 year and master of 2 years. And then they have introduced another concept, that is, there is a multiple entries, multiple exits. Please understand in a minute. Multiple entry means what? That if you enter into a BA program and you have some financial difficulty, and you leave after 1 year, you will get a certificate and you can go. But you can come back. Your grade will be deposited in credit bank. That's what they say. You can come back and do your 2nd year or 3rd year or bachelor degree. So that is called exit and entry. If you exit after 2 years, you get a 2-year diploma, and you can go work for 4 years, 5 years, and then you can come back and resume your study for the 3rd year and get a bachelor degree. That is the advantage. I think it's a good suggestion, I understand that. But in the process, there is no justification in the report as to why a bachelor degree period should be extended from 3 to 4 years. It has a negative implication on the access. They never realized that. They were aware, but they are silent. Higher education itself is difficult for the poor and social group. Now we are increasing it by 1 more year. Obviously, all the poor will get a 3-year degree and get out. And there is no justification in the report for the poor. The Hari Commission was the one which has brought the uniformity in the duration of the degrees with a lot of studies of all the system. I think the underlying reason seems to me is this, that in USA, if you want to have admission in master, you have to have a degree of 4-year duration, bachelor degree. So in order to facilitate the admission of the elite student who go to USA and other places, you are bringing out a 4-year education. but without realizing what will be the consequences of the poor student by increasing one more year and by cost. So I am not in favor of this. I am against this. I have mentioned we should continue with 3 years. It has been brought by Kothari Commission with a very detailed study as a matter of fact. Multiple entry, multiple exit, I have said. Let me go to others. Now national test, it is being discussed now. Very serious debate is going on. What the committee recommended, that there should be a national entry level test like medical and engineering, national. Now they have also introduced, not only suggested, but introduced at a very fast rate for 47 central universities. Your central university in Ahmedabad will conduct its own admission test and admit the student. They say no. For 47 universities, there will be a common test subject-wise, and on the basis of merit, students will be thrown into different universities based on their merit, irrespective of their convenience and anything. Just like medical. Now imagine what is the impact on this national test. You will see that the poor student from rural area, female, will get will be drop out and will come at the lower end. The Tamil Nadu government, the legislative council has rejected this demand because there was an NGO movement, and they have set up a Rajan committee to examine for medical they have studied this. They had a medical admission without test based on the higher secondary. But now it is based on the test, and they compared it. The Rajan committee came out with a finding that those with the identical marks at the higher secondary level, low income group, high income group, male and female, rural and urban, those with a higher income, urban area, they have a high probability to get into higher grade in the national test and admission than those who are having same marks at a higher secondary level, but they are poor, they are from rural. So you can see that national test, national common test, even in case of medical, is biased toward the low income group, biased toward the student from rural area and even female. For no reason, they are equally meritorious if you take into a higher secondary marks. And therefore the council, legislature has passed a resolution that we will continue with the higher secondary with some additional gap. They have sent the resolution to the governor. Governor is sitting on it. It is the president which has to give a consent, but government is not passing it that decision to the president. But the point that I want to convey you is that the national common test, if it is applied to the state public universities, central universities, what it will happen is that it will reduce the access of the relatively poor section to this. The one of the important reason is that when there is a national test, either for engineering, medical or anything, coaching coming in. Those who have income, they join these coaching shops and get trained. Even if your marks are lower, mechanically you are taught how to appear for the examination and get higher marks than those who have a higher marks at the higher secondary. So it's highly biased toward the high income group. Now, committee has not, there is a special heading, national test, they took pride in that. But they have realized that it will have an implication for the exclusion of the poor and the social group. So you can see that these are the suggestions made for the quality, but this suggestion will reduce the access of relatively poor section. Foreign universities. The issue of foreign university has been there for several years. Now the new education policy has already taken a decision. There is an announcement that the 100 university will be asked to open the campuses. Yeah, time is over. I mentioned you that the commercial, the self-financing colleges itself provide very low access to the poor. Foreign university, the access will be much less. They said even the government will not be able to help the poor student who get admission to the foreign university. So the foreign universities, strictly speaking, will exclude the relatively poor. Well, these are the implications of the measures suggested for improvement of the quality for an equal access to the poor and social, about which the committee is not aware. There are only general suggestions. I will end by saying that I get being the chairman of the UGC and interested in higher education, I get scared of the recommendation of this committee. The reason is that the